Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
Welcome to the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast.
Thank you, big voice in the sky. My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm a boudoir photographer from New Jersey, and this is my show. I get to talk to some of the best photographers in the world to find out how they got started, what sparks their creativity, and what hurdles they've had to overcome to get their businesses going. Along the way, we'll probably have a few laughs, but I'm here to have in-depth conversations about all kinds of things you've always wanted to know from the best out there. So stay tuned. You never know what you may learn. It's hot. Hot. Heat. Greetings. My name is Michael, and I'm your neighbor. What's going on, everybody? Here we are in the heart of the summer, and I really love it. The sun, the warm air. You know, I've grown up near the beach, so I love going down there, and a few years ago, I started to do family beach photos. And I get to spend a lot of time with great families visiting the area who want to take vacation photos on the beach. And it's a lot of fun. What more fun can you have than hanging out in the sand, having a good time with photography, meeting people? It's been a strange year, though, for booking beach families because we had that awful spring virus. Nothing was going on. I mean, like, literally nothing. And I was like, I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands this summer. It's not a bad thing. But then the last week of June, people suddenly started popping out of the woodwork, and my summer started to fill up a bit. And it's always interesting, though, doing beach photography because you never know what you're going to walk into. And last night I was with this very nice family, and had this little baby. Well, maybe it was a toddler. It's like a weird word, toddler. It was this little girl that was just starting to be able to stand and walk a few steps, and she wanted no part of photos. And she was crying and turning her head away and doing everything she could to not, get the photo taken. And she just started crying for her stroller. So the parents, go and get the stroller. They're dragging it out into the middle of the beach, and this baby/toddler only wanted to sit in this stroller. And it's tough because the parents get exasperated and they're apologizing to me, but what can you do? This baby/toddler is going to do what it's going to do. You can't force it to take photos. But they tried and they tried, but this baby wanted nothing to do with it, so you make the best of it. We took some photos of the parents and then the baby/toddler in the stroller on the beach. And, the little baby/toddler may not be your ideal client, but today we're going to hear from someone who is going to show us how we can target our ideal clients. Today is really an education. Heidi Thompson is our guest, and you can find her at evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. She is an expert marketer who works with wedding professionals, but these methods that we're going to talk about apply to anybody. And you know me, I'm dorky and I get into this stuff. So we had a long talk about her system of clone your best clients, which is essentially identifying the people you want most as clients and learning how to attract them. And it works. What can I tell you? She's onto something. This episode is a good listen with a lot of strong information about growing your business. So go grab sweet tea or Nescafe on ice, if that's your thing. Go in the backyard and find your hammock and a nice shady spot and kick back and enjoy this episode on a great summer day. And as always, I like hearing from you. You can connect with me online on Instagram at Mike Cassidy Podcast, or via my email, mike@thephotographypodcast.show, if you like reaching out to me. And thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next show.
This podcast and my website both focus on the goal of translating the art and business of photography and making it accessible and understandable to everyone. My goal is to provide the best content in photography for you, the listener. I've assembled a great team of photography guests and experts to make this happen. What I've chosen to do is create a subscriber model for my audience. If you value what I'm doing, you can become a member and support this podcast. In exchange, you'll get benefits over and above what's available for free. It's my goal to ensure that subscribers will definitely get back more than they give. I've created a membership program that brings you far more in-depth content if you want to take your knowledge of photography to the next level. Members will receive episodes with complete, unabridged interviews with our guests. Members will also get exclusive access to listen to and participate in AMA episodes. And there's more. If you would like to learn more now, head over to thephotographypodcast.show/subscribe. Now, without further delay, here's today's episode. Heidi, I'm talking to you. Heidi's here. And see, I enjoy talking to someone who is like a podcaster because they have a good microphone and I hear you so clearly. And I don't know what you call it. It's like one of those AMSR or AMSR.
Yeah.
Podcasts. So I think tonight we're just going to be opening jars of pickles slowly. We're going to sit there all night and then I'll be crunching on pickles. And that's what this is. This is high definition sounds that are coming through tonight. But we're alive. We're here. We're going to be talking a little bit about marketing this evening. Actually, not a little, probably a lot. Getting in depth here. Did you stretch out?
Oh, yeah, I'm limber.
You ready to go? Because tonight we'd be maybe just handing the reins to you. It's going to be the Heidi Thompson show getting into this. So we're going to be talking a little bit to Heidi. Heidi, just take a moment and introduce yourself to our listeners here.
Well, hello, I am Heidi Thompson. I run Evolve Your Wedding Business, and my whole goal is to help wedding professionals grow their businesses without going crazy in the process. And that's actually where the topic that we're going to be talking about today came from, was really making it easier for my clients and my students to market to the people that they really wanted to reach and have success with it, because throwing everything at the wall and hoping something's going to stick, it just doesn't work super well.
Doesn't work that way. People, and I think the founding or the grounding or the note here or the message is that when people often get into photography businesses, whether it's wedding or whatever it is, there's this kind of like air out there that it's so simple. All you do is buy a camera, and the next thing, people are going to be throwing money at you. And I think the reality really hits people a couple months into that when all they hear are crickets, and it's not quite evolving the way that everybody showed them online. And one of the things that people don't take into account is photography isn't different than any other kind of business out there. You know, if you're baking cupcakes or whatever it is, there's a lot more work that goes into bringing in clients. So I was actually, because I'm like the creeper, I was listening to your podcast. I was on there listening, and you do a very good job.
Oh, thank you.
And you're very smart at this. So I know we're in good hands tonight. So, and a lot of the tips, and you can explain, is it's just not relevant to wedding businesses. This book, and I read it over, it really applies to any kind of photography business. And just I think anybody can take information from this and use it for their advantage. Would you agree with me there?
I totally would. And really, the reason why the book is targeted to wedding professionals and my business is targeted to wedding professionals is, exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. You have to choose a group to target, to become known, to become the go-to person for that group of people. Doesn't mean it can't apply elsewhere. Like you were saying, this applies to any kind of photography business, really any kind of business. But I've really tailored it to wedding professionals because they're often in this weird situation that only happens in a couple industries where you really can't get repeat business, or you hope you don't.
Yeah. And two, I think really what happens there is like we mentioned, is that people think it's so easy, and they don't understand that marketing is such a big part, and it's not even just it's website and it's a whole bunch of other things that go into this that people kind of don't think about or don't know how much work is involved in this. And yeah, a lot of these concepts apply to almost anything. It's just basic marketing knowledge. So we're going to learn some good things here this evening, but just so people know, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you started and how you're involved with people and helping them with this marketing?
Yeah, so absolutely. It's a long and winding road, as it always is, when you find yourself in something that you really enjoy. I don't know if we ever fully intend to set out on the path we do, but I got started in events actually, I was still in college. And I was doing nonprofit events, working on fundraising events, and I loved it. And I got to work under a wedding planner after that, and I loved it and loved weddings. And I did some planning myself, but it really surprised me that the thing I enjoyed most about doing those fundraising events was the marketing. And I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know that's what it was called. But actually getting people to care, getting people to show up to a fundraising event, getting people to take action or donate to a particular charity, that was the piece of it that I really enjoyed and didn't realize was really a thing because I didn't.
Found your happiness.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Or your skill. You were able to help these people and they couldn't quite figure it out on their own.
Yeah, and then long winding road. I moved to England. I notice a gap in the market where what people are putting out in the British industry at the time was very much like white and fluffy. And that was the exact opposite of what people were leaning toward. They were going the more offbeat bride route. So I started a wedding fair called the Alternative Wedding Fair. And I brought together these couples who wanted something really different, and some of the most creative human beings I've ever met in my life, who would just create these like insane cakes or like wedding dresses that could be
the vendors. You mean like
yeah,
yeah,
like these dresses could be from a costumer in a Broadway musical. Like they're just so incredible. But I found myself really coaching them to get a better return on their investment. And it kind of smacked me in the face that not everybody just enjoys marketing. And at this point, I had been working in marketing in a bajillion different fields. I'd worked in software, I worked in healthcare, education. I actually did marketing for a fecal transplant clinic.
There you go.
If I can market that, you can market your photography business. So I just found like, okay, this is something that I'm just really into, that I really love. And I see this opportunity to help these incredibly talented people make the money that they deserve to be making. Because, if you're paid on your talent, you'd be a millionaire by now.
Right. So, yeah, you've been doing this for a while, and apparently you're very effective, and you've developed your business around this, which is the Evolve Your Wedding website. And what can people find over there, and what's going on that website?
Yeah, so at evolveyourweddingbusiness.com, I have a free training you can jump into that shows you exactly how to make your marketing easier and more effective. We have all the podcast episodes. As we're recording this, I am just about to publish, I think it's episode 169.
That's a lot of shows.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a lot of recording.
Yeah, there's tons of blog posts, tons of resources for you over there.
Yeah, so there's a wealth of information, and we'll touch on that in a little bit as well. I just wanted to give everybody a quick overview of what we're doing. And today we're really going to hit the marketing books, and we're going to cover a little bit of ground on one of your books, so to speak, and it's called Clone Your Best Clients. And it really is a good education on how to take some simple concepts that may not be very evident to people and how to apply them to really, the bottom line is to make money and to attract people. And one of the interesting things that I saw when reading over your book, and we'll start at sort of the beginning here, and we'll give some people some tips and tricks as we go along here, is that often, people know about marketing. It's nothing that's like a secret. And what was probably very accurate in what you said is people may have all these marketing tools and they try to apply them without really having a blueprint. They have this, they have that, they have the ads, and they just don't have a formula to maximize all of this. And that's the fundamental error that people make just from the start. And elaborate on that a little bit, because I thought that was very accurate, and it's people are jumping the gun and not really thinking about how to apply all these tools that they have in front of them.
Yeah, I'm very strategically minded, so I like to take a big picture view of things. And I think that helps in marketing a lot, because we get so focused on the individual little granular things that it becomes overwhelming and we lose the plot of what we're trying to do here. So what I mean by you have all these marketing tools and no blueprint. So you're posting on Facebook and you're posting to Instagram stories, and maybe you've worked on the SEO of your website, but there's no cohesive strategy to position you as the go-to person for the person that you want to work for. So just throwing all this random stuff out there doesn't attract them, because you haven't engineered it to attract them. We don't have to just, throw things out there and hope. We can actually build it so that by design, it's like this lighthouse, it's this beacon for the right people who will see you, and then we'll look at other photographers, and it's like an apples to oranges thing. It's like,
yeah. And the great part about the first part of this is really it's titled Why Your Marketing Doesn't Work. And when you read through that, you're like, wow, that's how I do it. And that's how I do it. And you don't realize, and it's one of those things where it just clicks and you're like, now it all kind of makes sense to me. And so it's great to read through that, because you're like, oh, maybe that's not how things should be done. And, one thing that's often talked about in terms of marketing and is that a lot of people I think are very afraid to sort of narrow down or niche down, or they try to be everything to everybody, which is a big mistake. I think that is obvious, but it's different from business to business, but wedding or child's portrait or infant portraits or so may have a little different ranges. But how do people go and how do they start to figure out even who their best client is, so they can start to narrow down their focus?
Yeah, and what I really want to encourage people to think about here is putting yourself in your customer's shoes. So really, why should they work with you over someone else? A lot of times that's a race to the bottom when it comes to price.
Right.
But if you can make yourself like the absolute go-to person for your ideal client, when they try to compare you, there's no comparison. It's, this is the right fit. And I guess if I can't go with them, then I'll go with, one of these other people. And it's really about, putting yourself into a category of one and really making sure that you do that with who you are appealing to, because you can't appeal to everyone.
Nor should you try.
No.
And I think that's the beginner mistake, is because you don't want to offend people, or you think that everyone's going to be your client. But in the long term, I don't think especially on the money front, that's going to work out best for you.
And the funny thing about that is it's completely counterintuitive.
It is. You're right.
Okay, I'm going to target as many people as I can. And so that means I will book more people. When really, if you specialize, then you will attract more people to you and you will book more. And even though it feels like, okay, I'm limiting my pool, like my business is focused on wedding businesses, I attract plenty of photographers who do weddings and do portraits and do family and do a bunch of other things. It isn't limiting. It allows me to stand out. So an example I give in the book is, if you had to have heart surgery, would you want to have that surgery done by your general practitioner or by your cardiologist.
Yes.
And maybe not even just the cardiologist that's near you, maybe the best in the country, maybe the best in the world. And those people are sought out because they're incredibly specialized and because of their skill. But the skill alone doesn't, make them sought out. If they were just a really good doctor of every kind, you wouldn't seek them out for this specific problem you have. And
the cardiologist is focusing on one particular need. He's not concerned about people with itchy armpits or something like that. He's heart people, and so by doing that, he can earn a lot more money.
Yeah. And it's going to have way more specialized knowledge. That experience is going to be different. When you choose to specialize, and it could be specializing in the type of client that you work with. You want to appeal to tattooed couples who don't want to cover up their tattoos in their wedding photos. Awesome. That is something you can really market yourself around. It's something you can brand yourself around visually so that if that person is looking for a photographer, they're going to see themselves represented in what you're doing and be like, hell yes. And then see everybody else where they kind of don't see themselves as much.
Right. And we'll get into this a bit more, but it is really important. I said, like you mentioned, to niche yourself down or to really find out who this person you want to service is, like that cardiologist. And then often people are such generalists when they start, and I don't blame anybody, because when you're first getting into the business, you're just surprised if someone contacts you and wants to go, and as you move along, you kind of can narrow down the people you want to deal with. And then the other mistake I think that people make too is when they go to advertise, if say you do want to spend money on Google ads or Facebook ads or everybody, they're just spraying ads out there, as you call it, all over the place and crossing their fingers again and hoping that someone responds to that, which could be ineffective, and a terrible waste of money, can't it?
Yeah. And, I have the perfect example. In April, I ran my first virtual event. I ran Book More Wedding Summit. And with that, I ran Facebook ads with it. And the people that I targeted with those Facebook ads were so specific. It was, people who've already been to my website and a lookalike audience of those people, or people who like a specific page that is related to mine. I don't want to target everybody in the world with this because they're not going to come, they're not going to buy, and it's going to be expensive.
Right.
And I think too often we get focused on the demographics. Like if you've ever heard that you need an ideal client, you're probably thinking, okay, brides, or okay, families. But that doesn't help you. And I have a real problem with the typical, in air quotes, ideal client exercise, because I think it's useless. Like, why does that help me to know?
Because it's still too broad.
Yeah,
basically what it means. It's not a real thing. Yeah.
You can't do anything with the information, and if you can't take action on it, it's pretty pointless. So I really like to help my clients, help people who read this book, drill down beyond, bride. I say bride is not
going deep. It's going deep.
Yeah, bride is not an identity. It's a role you play for a day.
Right.
But it's not an identity. And the reason why identity matters is because marketing is psychology. You have to understand why someone makes the decisions they make and what they value and what they're willing to spend more on, because all those things drive their purchasing decisions. So if you can understand who someone is, like really get them and understand their values and what they saw in you, that is just going to help you attract more of those people
in the long run. And what we're going to talk about here, it's like anything else, it's work. And if one of the things I talk about on this show is, nothing is that's good for you is easy. Like going to the gym for one day doesn't give you big muscles and, make you strong. It's that repeated going, it takes work to do. And then something like this too, to really find out who that
person is, that it does take a little bit of work. So we're going to break those steps down. But, you know, the great thing I like about that is it's straightforward and honest, sort of the way you approach this. And it does take a little bit of effort, but you will be rewarded once you find out who this person is that is your ideal customer.
Totally. And I am of the mindset that if something I'm teaching can't be used and implemented, then it's pretty useless. So I try to keep things really practical. I try to keep things very, you know, step by step, so that, yes, I want people to understand why they're doing what they're doing, because that's important.
So,
but
you're telling me I can't appeal to everybody? I can't be everybody's friend if I want to make money?
No, sorry.
My God, I thought this was going to be so simple.
I actually think it's much simpler to like pick someone and focus on them. I get that at first it's going to be a little scary because it is counterintuitive, but you will prove it to yourself that, you know, what I tell my clients to do is look at the people that you have worked with that you wish you could clone and work with over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's scary, I think, too, because people think right away you may be chopping away at a bunch of people that are potential clients. And I think that's what it kind of is, you know, the fear is with people. They're just trying to hang on, and you're telling them to look the other way at a bunch of people, but it's really the move in the long run.
And it doesn't mean that you can't work with those people.
No,
it just means that your marketing is not geared
You don't want
to those people.
Spend the money chasing after things that you're not going to get a significant return on, is really what I think that boils down to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to attract people who are similar to your ideal client, who maybe just have like one thing in common with your ideal client. You know, it's kind of a dartboard situation where your ideal client is the bullseye, but you don't have to shut yourself off to those outer rings either. You know, an example I give, a planner I works with Mexican-American couples, and her weddings are just awesome. Now, I'm a white girl and I love Mexican design. I love Mexican culture. She is the planner that I would go to for that kind of event. Am I her ideal client? No, but I also resonate with that style.
What she said.
Exactly. So it doesn't have to be, you know, so on the nose. It's just like if you don't point a magnet in any direction, then it can't attract anything.
Right. So you have to pick. You have to choose.
And you can change it. You can always change it.
You know, but I think for the long-term health, and I think especially with people who want to specialize a little bit more within their genre. Say if you are a wedding photographer and you do want to target very high-end brides or very high-end weddings, it does take learning what those people are and what they're about, so you can attract them rather than just, you know, spending a lot of money and crossing your fingers and hoping. So we'll talk a little bit about this and your concept of this amorphous blob. So when you're starting, basically it's a big bleh, and then what you want to do is mold that clay or mold that form into your ideal person, the ideal person that you'd like to get that email from or that text message from or that phone call from, that you want to be your client. So what is this amorphous blob that we were discussing in your book? Yeah,
so that is, you know, any demographic you have, any vague notion that you have of who you want to work with, like brides, which is what I get all the time. And I get it because that's where we start, but you have to drill down. So if you're telling me that your ideal client is a woman and she's engaged and she's between 25 and 40 and she lives within 50 miles of your city, okay, what do I do with that? Where do I go from here? Is this 25 to 45-year-old woman a Walmart shopper or a Whole Foods shopper? Are they outdoorsy? Do they really care about the experience that their guests are going to have? Is that the biggest thing for them? Really understanding what they care about. And that comes from identifying who are those people that you've worked with that you want to clone? And if you don't have anyone that you've worked with, you can just base this on a hypothesis. Who do you think you want to work with? Who is this person? Maybe you know someone like this person that you'd like to work with that you can base this off of. But the shaping of this comes through practice, not through sitting and thinking about it. It's actually talking to these people and adapting your marketing to suit them. And then maybe you take another pass at that marketing and, you know, tighten it up just a little bit to make it
Narrowing it down. Yeah.
Yeah, make it even more appealing as you learn more and more and more about who this person is.
Yeah. So that's a big mistake, I think, that a lot of people do, is that 25 to 35-year-old, you know, corporate woman or whatever is just too broad. That could be 1 million people in your area if you're in a metro area, in a larger area. And it's really, that's, like you said, that's more of a role. It's maybe not an identity.
And it's boring. It's not captivating. Why should I give you money if that's how you're going to market?
You're not speaking to the person. You're not identifying with somebody there. And, you know, like you said, pride is not an identity. People need to take that next step. And one tip in your book says, you know, to think back or to think of some people that you've worked with to start off. And then what was that exact, like a real person, not a fictional person, but someone you actually did, and someone that you would imagine you would want to be texting you or emailing you over and over and over and over again, that you'd always want to work with. And that's ideally what this is about, is to define that person. And how do we start to do that? Or what's the process in learning who that is?
Totally. And I really want to focus on this, and I want you guys to know that the reason why I focus on this is because we want to get away from the vague descriptions. We want to get away from the amorphousness that doesn't allow us to do anything. This is actually going to allow us to do something when we get out of the hypotheticals. So the first step is to identify, okay, who are these people that I've worked with that I wish I could just work with every single day of the week? They would just make me the happiest person in the world. And as you start identifying these people, and as you're paying attention to who they are as people, not as whatever role they fill, you're going to start to notice some similarities. And I like to start here with that introspective piece of really just looking at, what do these people have in common? You know, if I put all these people together at a party, what would we talk about?
Would you even say a good exercise is, for people who want to practice, is to actually go through some former clients and like look up and write their names down, like to make a list of people that really existed in their past?
100%, because you're going to reach out to them. So I'm all about, you know, being in your head to look at patterns and get curious about the kinds of people that these clients are. But where the real gold is hiding is in their heads. And we don't tap into this. Almost nobody taps into this in their business. And the amazing thing about it is, if you actually talk to your best clients, those clonable clients, and you ask them questions and you get information from them, they will tell you how to attract
they're happy.
More people just like them. Right. You know, this is what I was attracted to. You know, this is what I would say to my best friend about you and your business and why they should work with you. They're going to give all this to you. So I get that this sounds like work, but oh my God, does it make your life so much easier?
And it's this idea that you want to, and we'll get to this in a bit, interview these people. I mean, really interview them with some pointed questions there too. And then the idea we're driving at here is you're going to take all this information and sort of assimilate it, and from that you're going to find out who your best clients really are, and then use that information for some powerful marketing. And the idea here is that we're going to like make the bionic client. We're going to take all these people, take their best parts and form your ideal client from them and use that information to go forward. Because I think in your message again, which is really true, when your marketing is not in line with this ideal person, and it's not going to work for you like you want.
Yeah. And to give you an example, so there is a planner that I worked with, and she was having trouble booking clients. So we looked at her marketing, we looked at how she was communicating, the messaging she was using on her website, who she was saying that she was trying to attract. Right. And the way that she was positioning herself was, you need to hire me because I'll help save you time, which a lot of planners do. But here's the thing. She went through this process and she interviewed her best clients, and they didn't care about that. What they cared about was one or both members of the couple were Indian. They were often younger siblings in the family. They have been to their sister's wedding. They've been to their brother's wedding. They've been to their cousins' weddings and their friends' weddings. And the last thing they wanted was a cookie cutter, Indian wedding. So they just wanted, they wanted someone who understood Indian culture and could create like this beautiful Indian wedding, but also infuse it with them, their personalities. And the second she started marketing herself based on that problem that she was solving, she started booking up like crazy.
Yeah. So I guess that the lesson there is that, the problems or the issues you think you are addressing in your words may not really be the real problems of the people you're trying to reach out to.
Yeah. And, we also, businesses exist to solve problems. And yeah, we're not curing diseases, but we're still solving some sort of problem. Whether that problem is, I want to be able to remember this day for the rest of my life and show this to my kids and my grandkids. Or maybe it is that you want to save time. Or maybe you want a really, really personalized ceremony that no one else in the world is going to have that's so specific to you and your partner. And when we aren't really trying to solve the problem that our ideal client wants us to solve in our marketing, they're not interested because they're literally not buying what we're selling. We're selling them the wrong thing.
You're not on the same wavelength.
Right. Like we're trying to, sell them a bunch of tools, and they're like, I just need someone to hang this picture up in my house. Like I don't need to be Nick Offerman and be doing woodwork. I don't need all that stuff. So a really good place you can look to this to see how other brands appeal to their ideal clients, because when you start to notice this messaging, you're going to notice it everywhere. The way companies and brands talk about whatever their product or service does for their customer. And that's what you're really selling.
Interesting message. Yeah. And I think that when you look at people's websites, first of all, this I hate down, but I think a lot of photographers have great messages to begin with. But if they do, and this is where another big error comes in, because a lot of people in the photography business, they look to the left, they look to the right, and try to see what everybody else is doing, and they copy the same exact thing, because they think, oh, well, everybody else is doing this, so therefore I should have the same wording on my website, which is a mistake.
Yeah.
Because again, who knows if these people are crazy? Who knows if they know what they're doing?
Who knows if they're making any money?
Yeah, or what's going on. And then people copy things because they have this message and this message on there. But even if that was the case, you're still not separating yourself. You having the same text on your website and saying the same exact thing as the 5 other or 10 other wedding photographers in your area isn't going to help you. You can't succeed, and you can't go out and do that. And it just takes it. We're going deeper. You got to do more.
Yeah. The worst thing you can do is blend in with the pack.
And that's the sad truth, I think, of what happens a lot of times. And so this is really helpful information because, like we said, it's a little bit of work, but by finding these details out and what Heidi's going to talk about and how this all comes together is really how somebody can be different and, you're not commoditizing yourself. And that lets you charge more, just like the cardiologist can charge more. And he doesn't care. And he's driving around in a brand new Mercedes and you're not, but you could. But if you were weird and different enough, you could. So this is what we're going to get into, and a little bit about this message. And it's super important, too, is, as you mentioned, and I'm repeating this again, but you can't make up issues just because they sound good, like you're solving somebody's problem, because no one may have that problem, and you're just veering off into to the side, and that's not really what people are interested in. You really have to find out why your people are seeking you out and so forth. So what we're going to do here is, all right, this is where everyone's going to have to get their notepads and paper and pencils and start jotting this down. And we're going to review a little bit about this process. Okay, this sounds intriguing. I need to find out my client's message. I need to be unique and ideal. And where's the starting point? If I want to change my marketing today and want to try these ideas, what do I do? Where do I begin?
So some really simple places you can begin is with the audience you already have, whether you have an email list or an Instagram account or a Facebook page. You can reach out to these people, or you can ask wider questions. So what questions do you have about choosing a wedding photographer? What are you struggling with when it comes to planning your wedding? Because this information is going to tell you what problems they have and what problems they're looking to have solved. And this is going to lead your content marketing strategy. So if you're creating Instagram captions that are educational in any way, which you totally should be, or if you're creating blog posts, these are the topics that you want to cover, because these are the questions that your potential clients have.
Problems that you're really solving,
right,
that they have, yeah.
So
you're going to ask them.
You've been listening to the free version of the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast, which brings you the smartest content in photography. If you value what you've been hearing, Mike has created a membership program that brings you far more in-depth content if you want to take your knowledge of the business of photography to the next level. To hear the full interviews with all of Mike's guests, become a premium member today by visiting thephotographypodcast.show/subscribe.
Heidi, this is exhausting, but I think we're on to it.
It all just, like I said, it all really comes down to being intentional. And most of us are not being intentional, at least about some part of our business. So if we can apply that intentionality, oh man, the results are incredible.
Right. And it takes work. And I appreciate you laying this out here. Because there isn't a magic bullet. And that was the one message I think I saw in your material and your literature. There isn't you can't flip a switch to do this. It's a concerted effort. It takes some learning. But if you put your time into it, like we mentioned earlier, you can get out of this a lot more than you put into it. Wouldn't you say that's a fair thing there? And we covered a ton of ground here. This was like a whole college course here today. This is a lot of information. And just to recap for people, if they really want to read about this, where can people find the book that they can go and purchase? Because I think it was on Amazon, Clone Your Best Clients. And where's the best way for people to go?
So you can head over to my website, evolveyourweddingbusiness.com, and you'll see in the navigation, there is a link to it. And you can pick it up on Amazon. You could go directly to evolveyourweddingbusiness.com/clone. But I highly recommend coming over to the website, because there is a training that's going to go even deeper into creating this kind of marketing plan for you that if you've listened this far, you're going to love.
Yeah, if you're still hanging in, you're good. We've weeded out all the chaff by now. So these are the people who want to work and kind of understand at this point. And your website, again, is evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. And so if people really, really want some help putting this whole marketing effort together, that's really your gig, isn't it? And people can reach out to you as far as helping them with marketing plans
Absolutely.
and so forth. Yeah, you just don't work with photographers. I see you work with all kinds of wedding professionals that, like you said, stationers and so forth, that people involved in marketing, like you said, because these principles apply not just to photographers. And last but not least, we can listen to you whenever we want to,
You
can't
sure
we?
can. I have a podcast, the Evolve Your Wedding Business podcast.
And there's a lot of episodes, and there's a lot of good information on that podcast too. Because I was listening to some of your shows. You do a good show.
Yeah.
You do, and you have some cursing in there and stuff.
My personality.
I know that's right. No, I'm like, hey, it was like she means business. I was like, it made me sit up straight in my chair, and I was like, whoa, like I was like, all right, Heidi, I don't know, but it's great information. There's plenty of episodes that you have on all kinds of topics, and some you're doing by yourself, and sometimes you have guests on there. And I enjoyed listening to it, and I'm going to keep listening to your show. I subscribe to you now. I'm listening to your show because I want to get smarter. I do, and I think we did it.
I think we did.
I think we did. We did a good job today. Now we can get to those ASMR pickles. I'm going to go and people can listen to me chew pickles for the next 20 minutes. And that was a good show. And what I'll do is let you say goodbye to everybody. And then I think we're going to take a nap.
Sounds good. I'm tired. Well, thank you so much for listening. And like I said, head over to evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. You can sign up for that free training right there on the homepage and take this even further and put it into action for yourself.
Yeah, do it, people.
Do it.
And thanks. Do it. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.